Well, good afternoon, everybody. And my name is Kevin Frazier. I'm host of Entertainment Tonight, but this session is hosted by NABJ's Black Media Project and sponsored by TEGNA Foundation and Yahoo. It is designed to help Black people break barriers through discussion with Black men who have shattered barriers. And when you talk about people who shattered barriers, well, I mean, Hill Harper jumps right to the front of the class. I just want to list some of these names, Hill, about some of the different things you do. Actor, activist, author, entrepreneur, host. What else am I missing, Hill?
Father. I'm
father
to my young Pierce, who is teaching me things every day about life and about patience. And so I'm learning and growing.
You know, and I think that's the interesting thing is that you continue to evolve. A lot of people, they get to Hollywood or they get a job or they do something, they say, this is it. I've done it. I've reached my pinnacle. And every time I turn around, Hill, there's a new project, there's a new book, there's a new show. You continue to evolve in ways that affect the community and help the community. And also, let me mention everybody. Hill has been a part of some of the biggest franchises on television. CSI, and now The Good Doctor, great movies, and groundbreaking movies also. So I just think it's important to understand that you look at someone's resume and understand the work they've done and the work they're doing in the community. And that's kind of where I want to start. I want to start with your community work right now, Hill, and everywhere from where you've chosen to live to the Black Wall Street that you're doing. Can you explain that?
Sure. You know, there are massive, and I think we all would agree, there are massive systemic and institutional problems that our community has been trying to grapple with for 600 years at this point. And quite honestly, a lot hasn't changed. And I think that we have to, at least for me, you know, Dr. King said we're all tied together in a single garment of mutual destiny. And that means that no matter if I'm on a hit show like CSI, if a young brother or sister in Newark, New Jersey, or Southside Chicago, or in Houston, or South Los Angeles, or Trenchtown is not doing well, then I'm not doing well. And we are struggling. And man, you know, so all the books I've done and all those different things have always been about how can we empower our community and live better, happier lives? Yet there's so many barriers to that we have to take on. And finally, technology is there.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin, 10 years ago, I wrote this book, The Wealth Cure. And it was all about how do we cure the racial wealth gap? You know, I believe for a very long time that you cannot have social justice without economic justice. And I learned that through my foundation work, where I was trying to do work with these young folk and trying to figure out, you know, manifest your destiny. How do we create the life you want? And all the time we would run into economic barriers that would stop us. And they would be family-based and community-based.
Yes.
And even if you look over the last 16, 18 months where we've been really leaning into tentpole social justice issues, whether we're talking about police brutality, mass incarceration, education gaps shown by COVID and homeschooling, or COVID itself raging through our community. Then if you peel back the onion and you say, well, what communities have been hit the hardest by these major issues? And the one thing that those communities have in common is poverty, economic fragility, lack of economic foundation. And I truly believe if we fix the foundation economically in our communities, we can then actually solve many of those problems. Because think about what's the 90% of the activity that a young brother does that gets him locked up is what? Money related activity.
Yeah.
He's trying to get money. If we actually gird the money foundation and give opportunity, we solve that mass incarceration problem because the young brother's not doing that activity anymore. And so for me, I've been leaning into this issue for a while, but technology is finally there where we can create platforms to recirculate the Black dollar and the Black digital dollar to actually create meaningful movement as far as the wealth gap, because ultimately that's historically what has created wealth for our community.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting you talk about those dollars going around in the Black community. And I hope that some of the people watching this stop and think about for a second where your dollars are circulating as you become a journalist, as you move up in your profession and you make these dollars. Where do you take those dollars and spend them? You did a very interesting thing. You moved to Detroit at one point.
Yes.
And you
And
lived
so,
in Detroit. And I want you to explain why.
yeah, and I still have my house in Detroit. So I'm not there now because we shoot The Good Doctor in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I'll be back in my house in Detroit. Because at the end of the day, first of all, Detroit, I got introduced to Detroit because there used to be a tax incentive for media production in the state of Michigan that unfortunately a very misguided governor named Schneider and the legislature there got rid of. They did this whole campaign. They were saying we're giving tax breaks to Hollywood liberals and all this stuff, not realizing the level of jobs and tax money that comes into the state. Also being upset that most of those jobs were happening at the beginning in Detroit. Again, very short-sighted, because usually production, when you have production, it starts in the major city, but then starts to radiate out because the studio space is cheaper further out. And also not every show needs the topography of a city. It needs the country. It needs to look like a town or the countryside. And so it's very short-sighted, the idea that only Detroit, and therefore only Black folk, because Detroit is the blackest major city in the country, nearly 87% Black, is going to benefit from that. But that's a whole other legislative conversation.
But production was booming. I mean, we were going there at least
production
twice
was
a month.
Booming. There were multiple studios that had already signed to take over some of the old auto plants as for creating sound stages. When you talk about booming, these deals were already in the works, already signed. Construction jobs. Also, it was so short-sighted. But during the time it existed, I had done many independent films there, and I met some of the most amazing people. And what makes Detroit so special is its people. There are people that have overcome hardship. There are people that have been through it, but they've seen greatness, but they've also worked together. They see each other. In Detroit is this interesting mix. It's a city with kind of a hard scrabble underbelly, because, I have a place in Brooklyn too. So it had Brooklyn 20, 30 years ago, when it had that hard scrabble underbelly. Mixed with a city that has like this Southern Midwestern hospitality. So the people are so kind and so nice, but it's still a city, and it has that city edge to it. So it's this wonderful mix, I think, that's very unique in the country. And I love being there. I love the people. And also it speaks back to everybody. For instance, when I said, oh, I'm gonna get a house here, they said, oh, you got to live in Bloomfield Hills, or you got to live in Grosse Pointe. And I said, no. I have to live in Detroit. And they're like, no, you don't want to live in Detroit, man. The houses in the suburbs, or that's where you should live. I was like, no, I have to live in Detroit. Why? Because we have to start putting our tempo down and saying, if I'm going to spend millions of dollars renovating an old home, those dollars are going to go into Detroit. They're going to go into the community. And so I'm putting my entire African-American art collection in October. This will be the first time I have announced. I'm not going to say the exact month. Let's just say in 2022, I will be opening the Pearson Hill Harper Arts Foundation, and the entire collection of the museum will be open in Detroit. And we're going to have Detroit school kids touring on a daily basis, so that they see that great art like this Bisa Butler over my shoulder, great art is being made. In fact, the greatest art in the country right now is being made by people who look like their aunties, their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, the Micheline Thomases of the world, the Nick Caves, the Titus Kafars, the Bisa Butlers, the Kehinde Wileys. We can go down the list. Simone Lee, Kerry James Marshall. we can talk about all these, but 99% of our young people don't even know who any of these people are.
Thank you.
Now
Right.
they know who Lil Uzi Vert is, and that's fine. I don't think there's nothing wrong with knowing who Lil Uzi Vert is, or the baby, or Lil
Right.
Baby, or we can go on.
Right.
They know who all these folks are, which is cool. But they should also know who Kerry James Marshall is. They should, they should also know who Theaster Gates is, right? And so, but not even just know who they are, be inspired by them. Realize that more money has been paid for a Kerry James Marshall work than any other artist in the world that's living. I mean, period, right? And it gets argued about size and value and all that. So you could say, well, this more was paid for this, but it was bigger. I'm talking about, the actual art piece. But the point being is that when you peel back the onion, we're in an idea economy, and our young people need to be inspired, need to know that there are other options out there, and need to see work and say, woo, this is fantastic, et cetera. So we're opening that in Detroit. Everybody is welcome to come through when it opens in 2022. And I couldn't be more proud of that.
I love the point that you make, that people say to you, they're like, why would you live there? What are you doing? Why are you moving? And I think that I hope that people that are listening to this understand that pressure to move away from your community, you can't succumb to that pressure. People said the same thing to me when I moved off of Crenshaw Boulevard. They're like, why are you moving down there? And I was like, well, this is actually where everybody that looks like me lives. This is where, like, I go to the Crenshaw Mall. So it's an interesting thing. And I hope that journalists take this, as we make money, we reinvest it in our community and use that money to circulate and help build that next group of great entrepreneurs or artists or whatever.
And to that point, let me just double down on that, Kevin. To that point, that's why I launched the Black Wall Street digital wallet. To me, the reason why I called it the Black Wall Street is the fact that I've been inspired by looking at communities where we've created group wealth. Now, I'm about to say a data point that breaks my heart every time I say it and every time I know it. So in 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Black people in America held a little less than 1% of American wealth. Fast forward 158 years later to 2021, Black people in America hold a little less than 1% of American wealth. And so we can name outliers like the Kevin Fraziers of the world, like all these amazing journalists who are on here, and on folks that have done well and made some money and sort of broken through the wealth gap. But for the vast majority, the 39,910 other Black folk, the idea of cross-generational wealth transfer is a myth, and a fleeting myth. Yet, if you look back, there have been many, many communities and many Black Wall Street, so to speak, in all sorts of cities. Bronzeville in Chicago. You had Wilmington, North Carolina, where Black folks controlled the entire city. You had multiple cities throughout Virginia. Obviously, you had Rosewood. You had all these different cities. But
yes,
when you look at Tulsa, and you look at the Greenwood District, and you look at what O.W. Gurley did, to me, there were three pillars that created the wealth. And my goal was, could I replicate these three pillars on a digital platform? So pillar number one, institutional ownership. Pillar number two, institutional trust. Imagine that we trusted each other and transacted with each other. Pillar number three, and perhaps the most important, the movement of money or capital within the ecosystem, where a dollar changed hands 60 to 100 times. Back then, that was a year to 3 years. Right now, a dollar leaves our community within 6 to 7 hours. And the reason why I launched with a digital wallet is because if we don't start owning our own digital wallets, as we're moving from fiat and hard money currency into digital currency and cryptocurrency, if we don't own our own digital wallets, that dollar is going to be leaving, that digital dollar or crypto dollar is going to be leaving within 6 to 7 seconds. And so we can actually be first movers in this space. Right now on my platform, you can buy and purchase Bitcoin. I hope that people start buying. My goal is to have every Black person in America holding at least 1 million Satoshis. And a Satoshi is a fractal share of a Bitcoin. There are 100 million Satoshis in every single Bitcoin. I believe that if we can get every Black person in America holding at least 1 million Satoshis, we then can start to leverage that asset class and control that asset class as a worldwide store of value. We can create wealth through technology. It's time that we stop allowing other folks to monetize our culture on these platforms. We made Clubhouse a $4 billion platform. We made Twitter a multi-billion. Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. I mean, in 6 months, Black activity on Clubhouse created a wave of success of that platform. Same thing with Black Twitter.
Yep.
We can go down the line. Same thing with Instagram. So at the and certainly our music is monetized as well. I mean, you just saw that that Jack Dorsey purchased controlling interest in the last Black-owned tech streamer, Tidal, for $300 million. And so we have to support our own technology and our own tech platforms. And that's why I launched the Black Wall Street Digital Wallet. So please, y'all out there, please download go to the App Store, go to Google Play. If you're Android, iOS, doesn't matter. Download you had to put the in first, the Black Wall Street. Download that wallet and just connect the account and start just purchasing Bitcoin. And then you're going to see other features start to populate. This is a long tail. It's not just going to be a wallet. It's a whole ecosystem of exchange. But I have to start somewhere with what you call an MVP, which is your first product that you come out with. And then we're going to start adding features so that ultimately we become a payment system. And then, but here's the beautiful thing: we're going to own that payment system.
Yes.
And so that's what's critical here.
And by the way, I also want, you mentioned Wilmington, and people don't talk about Wilmington enough, where that was a coup, where the government was overturned and all those Black leaders and businesses were destroyed. And that is one that seems to get lost in the background. So I urge everyone to understand what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. If you don't know by now, Hill Harper's a really smart and dialed-in guy. He Brown University grad, Harvard Law. You also got a degree from the Kennedy School of Business at Harvard. But you have always also somehow cultivated, while you're doing all this, cultivated your acting career and done all these things. And I want to go back to your first ever movie, which was Get on the Bus.
Yes.
Spike Lee joint.
My first ever major movie.
Major motion picture. Your first major motion picture.
Yeah. I did a lot of independent and student films.
Right.
Leading up to that. We always forget the journey, but all that free work and all that stuff is important to position you to be able to get that first major motion picture. But yes, Spike Lee, I have a debt of gratitude to him for hiring me for Get on the Bus, and it's a blessing to that to be my first role. Yes.
And that movie taking us to the Million Man March, and it was about that journey. And what was it like being with such Ossie Davis and other great actors that were on that bus and that you all worked with? What was that experience like?
It was, to be at the very beginning of my career, to have that opportunity changed me fundamentally. And particularly the way Spike laid out the bus, the seating on the bus. And this is something I think most people wouldn't know. So when you're, obviously when you're shooting, and particularly back then when there's no green screen technology and it wasn't, you had to be on the bus even if you weren't in the scene, because they're shooting on a bus and they would see that those seats were empty behind, right? And so my character sat next to Ossie Davis on the bus. And so I got a chance for about 3 weeks to hear stories from Ossie Davis and tell me about Malcolm X coming over for dinner and talk about the fact that if you are in this business, you need to be an activist, because what's the point if you're not? What's the purpose of having a voice or platform or opportunity, even if it's small, relatively speaking, doesn't matter. Figure out what you're passionate about and lean in there. He told me about Godfrey Cambridge, and who was Watermelon Man, and said how angry and rageful he would get about racism and not being able to get a taxi. And one time he ripped off the door of a cab, and they used to do theater together, him, Ruby Dee, and so all these stories, and I learned a very powerful lesson with that film also, is that after he told me all those stories, I said, Mr. Davis, when this is over, will you just sit with me and can I record all these? Because these need to go into the canon of our history. We need to record these stories because we're losing these stories. We're losing this knowledge and this information. And he said, fine, he would do it. And I'd always planned to do it, didn't get around to doing it,
Mhm.
and put it off. Things got busy, and my career was going well, and I'd
Yep.
always do. Oh, I'm gonna do that. Gosh, I need to sit with Ozzie Davis. Oh, I need to cut out time. I got to go to New York and sit with Ozzie Davis. And he passed away.
Yeah.
And it was a powerful lesson that if you have an intuition to do something, do it, y'all. Whatever that intuition is, move on it, because it's not promised that you'll be able to do it tomorrow. And your intuition is right. And I regret often when I think about it, the fact that I didn't do that. And, I got a chance to do a movie, Ruby Dee's last film. She played my mother. And I got the chance to, talk to her about that, tell her that story, and lament the fact that I didn't do that, and just thank her for her and who she was. That movie's called 1982 that I did it. We shot it in Philadelphia, and may they both rest in peace. And they
Yeah.
still are incredible inspirations that Black men and Black women work. We
Yes.
work together. We can make it work together. We can build lives together, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes the underappreciated genius of Spike Lee to bring these people and things together. You also did He Got Game with Spike, and what was that experience like?
He Got Game was incredible because that was right after Get on the Bus, and I was so honored that Spike asked me to do another film, right?
Right.
Because he, obviously there's plenty of other actors he could have asked to do that film, and so he did make me prove to him that I could play basketball for real, which I could, because I was playing with all pros. So the other four guys on the team were in the NBA, young guys in the NBA. So I had to make sure that I looked like I belonged. So that was good. But at the end of the day, because I love Don Cheadle. You know me, he's one of our great actors.
Yes, he is.
That movie he did about the goat, oh my god. That's some of the worst basketball I've ever seen. It's like you
can't fake it.
As good an actor as he is, you can't fake that. I forget what that movie was called, but man, I was like, oh man. No, so you can't. You gotta be able to play ball. And that's no shade. I am not trying to say Don Cheadle. I want to be very clear. Hill was trying to say, no, I love me some Don Cheadle. But you still gotta play basketball if you're gonna play a great basketball player. And so it was great shooting that film. Kobe Bryant was supposed to play the lead of that film.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that he was going to be the lead, and somehow towards the last minute, the deal fell through, and then Ray Allen came in to play the lead, and Ray did a great job. Working with Denzel was great for me. I asked Denzel to be my mentor. He told me no. So
that's so Denzel. That's so Denzel, right?
Exactly.
You got to explain that to people. He's the most honest person. Like Denzel and Michael Jordan are two most honest people on the planet. They'll say no in a heartbeat.
They know in a heartbeat. He's like, no. He said, man, you don't realize someday you and I probably will want the same role. Now, why would I mentor you to take a role I want? I was like, B, first of all, we're not going to be competing for the same role. And then I ended up beating him in one-on-one, and he got mad, and he threw down the ball, and he said, where's my driver? Where's my driver? And I said, D, we made a bet. It was Ray Allen, myself, and him. We made a bet. I said, we made a bet that whoever lost was going to pay for dinner. Of course, Ray Allen wasn't going to lose. And so, it was really me and Denzel playing. And he's like, you two, N-words, I owe you dinner. I own a restaurant in LA called Georgia. Do you own a restaurant? That's what I thought. Go on and go there and just tell him I said the dinner's on me. I ain't going to be there with you though.
Wow. It seems like it was such a fantastic experience. And that movie, even today, still resonates when you look at all the things that's going on in the college basketball world.
Absolutely. That movie stands the test of time. Although there's a heartbreak in that for me, there was this massive scene and sets of scenes that got cut out of the storyline about my character who couldn't read, and how Ray Allen's character had to protect my character. But just the film, the length of the film. So there's a scene that I look back on my career, literally, I think is one of the most important scenes I've ever shot that didn't actually make the film. There's, if I don't know if someone who's seen the movie a lot, they'll remember this, but there's a scene where Denzel and Ray's character are walking down the boardwalk, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and Denzel or Ray, Denzel hands him a stuffed toy or whatever, and says, "Man, you got to sign with state, da da da," and peels off. And my character's sitting there waiting for Ray Allen, his character, and you see me waiting for Jesus, and I got a basketball, and we in the script and what we shot, we keep walking, coming out of that scene, we keep walking onto the beach, and I go into this huge tirade about how I'm tired of living in your shadow, and the only thing that gives me any importance is my connection to you, but I'm my own person, and it's messed up, and all this, and it's like, F you, and this is crazy, and I end up kicking the ball into the ocean. And it was one of the scenes I've done in my career that I'm actually most proud of. Although I've never seen it.
We need that uncut version. We need the uncut version.
I never
He Got Game.
Yeah, we do.
We have to ask Spike about that. The uncut version of He
The
Got Game.
The uncut version of He Got Game. Yes.
All right. I do also want to talk about you were part of the CSI franchise when it was it was the biggest franchise in the world, the most watched franchise in the world. I remember we did a shoot in the morgue.
Yes.
I'd never been to the morgue before. And it was much more comfortable for you than it was for me. But
that's some more found footage we got to find. There you go. You got to find that.
I've never been as terrified. I didn't understand the morgue. But then I got there and I was like, oh my God, this is really this is the place where you end up. But what was it like being a part of that? Because I remember the hubbub when it started and how big it was to have you as a part of that franchise.
Yeah, I was so honored. They offered me a role on there. I didn't have to audition for it, and that was just an honor to me. And I really loved it. I remember I did a movie called The Skulls, where I actually beat Ryan Reynolds out for the role in that.
I know.
I think it's the only time ever in my career where I beat Ryan Reynolds out for any role. But so that movie I did with Paul Walker, may he rest in peace.
The college movie where
Leslie
you got the
society,
yeah.
The rowing, the secret society.
Yeah.
Paul Walker's character ends up killing me and my character.
Yeah.
I was a journalist investigating the secret society.
Right.
And Josh Jackson, Leslie Bibb, Paul Walker, myself. And so on that movie, William Peterson was playing Paul Walker's father in the movie.
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, I just shot this pilot before this movie called CSI. I don't know if I don't know what it is, man, but it was kind of interesting, to do." Like, did it get picked up? He said, "Yeah, it just got picked up. It probably won't make it, but whatever." And that was the first I'd ever heard of CSI. And of course, it goes on the air and does incredible things. And then so CSI Miami then came out. Then CSI New York was going to happen, and to get offered CSI New York was an honor. And I just love playing Dr. Sheldon Hawkes. I love the character. He started as the coroner. So I did this research in the New York morgue where, I was there for multiple bodies. This one guy he'd been decomposing for like 3 weeks. So his whole stomach was green and it just smelled like you wouldn't believe. But being in there to see how the coroners work, the autopsy, doing the research. And then after the first season, they asked me, they said, "Hey, we want you on more, because when you're just doing the coroner thing, you're only in 1 to 2 scenes. We want your character to put in an application to be a CSI, who's a doctor who becomes a CSI." So, at the end of the first season, I apply to become a CSI, and I become a CSI. But I'm one of the rarities, because since I'm a doctor, I tell them I don't want my character to carry a gun, because my character's taken a Hippocratic oath. And that's something that was actually in the entire years never discussed. I was the only CSI who didn't carry a weapon. And because I had taken that Hippocratic oath to do no harm. And so I wish we'd had a episode where we talked about that, but we never did. But that was just something that we did, and I love doing that show. The people, to me, 9 years, their family. We did 197 episodes. We almost did
Unbelievable.
200 episodes, and just very proud to been able to do. When you do something in this industry from start to finish, from beginning to end, it's just something very prideful. Just love it.
And it's also important that when you turn on a show that is that popular, that is going worldwide, that you see faces that look like you. And that is the thing that it always was important. Like you pop up and it's like, aha, there he is.
And always attempting to play characters that are the smartest people in the room. And that's the other thing. It's not just look like us, but also I wanted to come off and be the smartest character. So all those characters were always coming to Dr. Hawks for answers, asking Dr. Hawks questions. Dr. Hawks very seldom was asking them questions. And I think that type of unspoken leadership idea of seeing that normalizes Black intelligence. It normalizes the way folks see Black folks adding value from an intellectual perspective. And not being it wasn't like a nerd, you know what I'm saying? He was cool. He was smart and cool. He dressed well.
Well, dressed very well.
In fact, I think the sweater I'm wearing is probably Dr. Hawks' sweater.
Could some of that point of view have come from your parents and the way you were raised? Your mom was the first Black female anesthesiologist in the United States?
One of the first Black female.
One of the first, right.
In the United States. And so, and my father was a psychiatrist. They both met at Howard Medical School. So I feel like I'm a double bison. I have an honorary doctorate from Howard. And then, but for Howard, my parents never would have met, so I never would have been born. So I feel like that double bison to me. But at the end of the day,
I'm married to a bison. So
you're married to a bison. You got a single bison connection. I've dated a couple bisons. I understand. So to me, my parents represent Black excellence. Yes. My father passed away. My mother's still with us, but they represent the best of the best. And I've never lacked for confidence. I've never thought that there was anything I couldn't do. And the only reason is because of my parents and their parents, my grandparents, both my grandfathers and grandmothers. I had the rare treat to know all four of them. And my grandfather, my father's side, died when I was 10. So that one was a little shorter, but all the other ones I got to spend summers with. And generationally, seeing generational greatness, seeing generational hard work, seeing generational Black excellence.
Yes.
That impacts you. And so I'm hoping I'm offering that to my son, Pierce, although I'm realizing the world is different now. Unfortunately, he is only going to have connection with one grandparent, which is my mother at this point, unless I get married real quick. But there's so much more outside influence now.
Yeah.
Yes. And in ways that everything, he's bombarded with all this tech and all these commercials and ads are slid in different ways. All the stuff that comes from the peers because they're exposed to so much other things that it's harder, I think, than it was with me or even before to sort of narrowly offer a viewpoint of what excellence is and what you should be doing with your time and how you should work. Now, he comes home talking about stuff and I'm like, where did that come from? Right. Where did that come from? And it's not stuff that I think is necessarily good. And you start to realize your child is being influenced by all of this technology that just as it has, like I said earlier, has the potential to actually decentralize and create wealth and opportunity, it also has the ability to be so widespread and so so encompassing that it can actually control people's thoughts about who they are, about themselves.
So how do you combat that as a father? Because I go through it right now with my 14-year-old, and that phone, and you're just like, this cannot be your reality. This cannot be how you're digesting the world. How do you combat that?
You know what? I don't know. And I'm trying to figure that out. And I'm trying to do tech restriction, but then at the same time, I say, well, if I restrict too much tech, am I actually hurting them from their standpoint of feeling comfortable with technology and their ability to use technology effectively? And so it's a very fine line. So I'm sort of erring on the side of no TV and erring on the side of no tablets, almost no tablets and no phone or no any of that. But there's a lot of data out there that suggests that having kids learn on tablets and having them work through problems and do things like roadblocks and Minecraft and all that kind of stuff, they say that's helpful to the way problem solving and being able to code and sequence things to solve technically. So I don't know, I'm not convinced. And also, the hardest thing, though, to me is not necessarily even the tech. It's actually the peers, the peer groups, and how exposed they are to things so early. Because I can kind of control what my son sees when he's in the home, but I can't control when his peer calls him a certain name that they learned from either their parents or watching something or what have you, or talks about race in a certain way, or uses certain words and language that they had to pick up from somewhere, somehow, somebody else. And so, even in referencing, let's say, superheroes. So if my son says he wants to be this color Power Ranger, and they're like, no, you have to be the Black Power, or says something like, oh, I want to be Spider-Man. Well, Spider-Man's white, but no, well, Miles Morales. But you can get into these debates. But the point is that race, identity, all this stuff isn't new. But what it is more modern is how manipulative the images and how the dissection of information can be, and how I believe it impacts sense of self. There's too many folks that I meet out there that think that tie some measure of happiness and self-worth to their Instagram account.
Oh, yes.
And that's just an example of one piece of this. So to the extent that we can be reminded, everybody out there that's listening to this, you are magnificent, you are brilliant, you are incredible. And I try to make my son say all these affirmative things about himself. But I realize that it's a tough battle against all the other images that are out
there. Yeah, and for Black fathers out there, what would you say? Because I love that idea of saying positive things back to them. I try to do that to my children all the time when we're talking, and you just start slipping in those positive affirmations to them, especially young Black men that say, oh, but you are so fabulous at this. I just want, blah, 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 as you have those conversations.
Absolutely. And one thing I do when I'm driving him to school, there's a book that I have that he has to read these affirmations from. And there's also a great poem this is for young kids, but it's a beautiful poem called A Great Somebody. And I have him recite that poem. He's got it pretty much memorized now, but it goes on about how, I am a great somebody and blah, blah, blah. Adrian Seeley Hardesty wrote it. And I'm writing that down. And so I'll tell you this, I have to say those things. I think we all have to say our affirmations because listen, this world is coming for us, and it's coming for us in insidious ways, subconscious ways. We, as the black folks and Black community, particularly folks that are out front and on camera, we have to say our affirmations. It's not just for young people.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves how great we are and how magnificent, because the world really isn't doing it. And we need to.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a great point. And for the folks that are out there on camera, also to think about finding places where you can get that affirmation after you've been, maybe you've worked a news shift all day and you've had to deal with all the things that are going on. You need to balance that out where you can get that positive reinforcement. So
Absolutely.
you just don't feel and have this negative look at the world.
Absolutely. When you're reporting on murder and death and all sorts of things
in your
all the
community,
time, particularly in your community, you need ways to regird and restock your spirit. And I'll just say this, I'm so proud of all of you out there. I just think you are magnificent. You are brilliant. You're heroes. You represent the best of us. You are Black excellence. And so know that. And know that we respect you and that we thank you for what you do. It's so important.
yes,
Disseminating information for us and educating us and making sure that we have accurate information. I mean, it's a critical role that you play, particularly in an industry that's gotten so much more political and divisive and manipulative. And so what you all do is so important.
And it's also a reminder that how important an organization like NABJ is, that bringing us together to be able to see each other and talk to each other and have these exchanges in a place that is a safe space. So I just appreciate NABJ also. And we always support this organization and always come out. I want to ask you real quick about the work that you did, because one of the things I covered when I was covering you on CSI was also the stuff that you did with the Obama administration and the election cycle and all that stuff, and your activism as far as that was concerned. How is that when you step out and you say, you're an actor, but you're also an activist and you're putting yourself on the front lines, and everyone may not agree with what you are doing?
Oh, without question. It was important for me because, I've known President Obama for many, many years. We went to school together at Harvard Law School. And, he knew that I was born in Iowa and that I still had a lot of connections to Iowa. And during, he was 30 or 40 points down in his own party at the time of the original primary. And he said, listen, Iowa's first. If we can't win Iowa, we can't win this nomination. So will you go down and spend a significant amount of time down there? So I went down there for a month plus to help campaign and organize down there. And, to be quite honest, other folks on my cast, cast members had completely antithetical views to mine. And I got this long email from one of my cast members / producers about how he completely disagreed with my position and completely disagreed about this and all these different things. And things I could tell you many stories. I mean, there was a time where Donald Rumsfeld was visiting the set and I refused. I didn't want to take a picture with him and I refused to come to take a picture because there was no way in my mind that I wanted to stand there and smile because it would have been a fake smile. And he just recently passed away, so may he rest in peace and God bless. But that doesn't mean that, in my place of work, I needed to take a picture with that person. That created a little bit of a stir. But at the end of the day, we have
But you stood tall. You stood tall.
We have to be true to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to be true to what we believe is right and true. Being appointed by President Obama to the President's Cancer Panel and having a presidential appointment, very proud of that. Being able to offer cancer policy to the White House and having that opportunity, very proud. And so as far as the elections are concerned and helping folks get elected, I mean, obviously things have changed significantly since then around electoral politics and what's going on and not for the better. Let's be very clear. Certainly not for the better. And
there's an attack on our voting rights right now. And everyone, if you don't believe it and you don't understand it, they're taking the clock back to 1960, 1956. It's going backwards, and you got to understand that's happening. Yes.
And we always want to exhale when folks are able to deliver. To me, to be quite honest, local elections and local, county, state elections are always the most important anyway, right?
100%.
What's really impacting our lives on a daily basis are, for instance, when I just talked about, the beginning of this, talking about Michigan getting rid of
Right.
the tax. That has nothing to do with the federal election. That was all about who was elected in the state and who ended up taking those jobs away, and quite frankly, billions of dollars out of the Detroit economy. The people that we put in these local and statewide offices is critical, and that's why participation is so important. But allowing what's going on and with the restriction of voting and real gerrymandering and real manipulation, folks are not stopping in this, right? And so people keep saying, dang, when's it going to end? When's this going to, folks are just going to be fair? And the answer is they're not. That's why we have to keep working. We have to keep doing this work, y'all. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep speaking truth to power. We cannot exhale. We cannot wait, because at the end of the day, the manipulation and the lying is real. It's true, and it's aggressive, and it's all about power and all about money. And we have to stand tall.
And remember, as you sit in your newsroom, you're there to tell the truth. We're not asking you to not tell, just tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Exactly.
Tell the truth. That's all. People are now trying to manipulate the news. Don't let them manipulate the news. Tell the truth.
Yes.
All this leads to your book, Conversation, or Letters to a Young Brother and Letters to a Young Sister. As I think about this and I think of messaging and what you say, and I want to touch on those books because I thought they were so important. I know you have them there, don't you? Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
I don't have that one. I don't have those two. They're in the other. I know I have copies in the other room somewhere, but I don't have them at this desk.
What led you to write those books?
So Letters to Young Brother, I thought that was going to be the only book I would ever write, to be quite honest. And I wrote that book because at that time, if you walked around a bookstore or library, there were virtually zero motivational books for young men of color and teen Black boys. And I knew this because I got asked to speak and do motivational talks and things at a lot of schools. And all the time, the young brothers would never say anything during Q&A, but there'd be a whole line of them off to the side because they didn't want to do it publicly. But they're like, hey, Hill, listen, and then remember, 3 out of 4 of them are growing up without men in the home that are with them on all the time. And so there's a lot of guidance that was needed just from a strictly older brother, father-esque a perspective of like, yeah, man, I don't need nothing from you. I don't want anything from you. I just love you and I want to see you win. And that to me is what that is about, because mentorship can happen on paper. I've been mentored. You don't always need to know the person to have a mentor. That's probably what Denzel was trying to say to me when he said he wouldn't be my mentor. He was really probably, Kevin, just saying, read a book, man. Read a book by Sidney Poitier. Let Sidney Poitier be your mentor.
Right. When you need something, you can call me. But
that's ultimately, all jokes aside, mentorship is about choices. That's the only, really, when you peel back the onion, what mentoring helps you do is help you navigate your choices to make the best choices, because we're all faced with multiple choices through every day that can impact our lives moving forward. And mentoring helps with that. Now, books who give you information to think through your choices are mentorship books and mentoring books. And that's what this is. And so you can have mentorship on paper, and not a day goes by that I don't get a reach out through my DMs or social where a young brother or young sister says, hey, this book changed my life. It helped me make this choice. When I read this part, I realized I should do this, and I did this, and I thank you. And so I couldn't be more proud of that. As far, Letters to a Young Brother to me represents the most important thing I've ever done in my career.
I think it's a great book. I think it's a great book. I remember when you launched it, and I think that for all those young journalists out there, pick up the book and just read it, and also look in your community, because you are that face of influence that's on TV, or maybe you're producing behind the scenes, but people in these small markets are looking up to you. So look back to reaching the community, and maybe there is a young man or a young lady that you can help mentor, because you are a force in your community. You may not feel like it. You may feel like, I'm just a young dude trying to figure it out, but you're a force in the community. But please pick this book up and just read it.
I don't do it as much as I used to, but I used to grab copies, put them in the back. When I was in LA, I did this a lot more. In Seattle, where I am, there's not a lot of young brothers that I drive by. So I guess, I just gave it out to a young cat, a young Asian cat, who was, it was his birthday. And he was like his 15th, he was turning 15. But I used to drive around with copies, and I'd see a young brother on the corner. I just pull over. He's like, man, that's dangerous. Don't be just pulling up on a young cats on the corner. I'm like, come on, man. You can't, if you're gonna be scared of your own kids, get out of here. Get out of here. And so, I roll up on these kids and just be, hey man, hey, I got something for you. What you got for me? Boom, and give them a book. And I still hear from some of them now, man. It's like, man, you rolled up on me. I didn't know who you were, and all this. And so you can do that. Remember, you don't wait for someone to ask you to lean in and help them, right? You can actually show up on your own in your community in whatever way, and just do it. And don't think that, oh, who are they going to think I am no, don't overthink support. We need it so bad that anything you're willing to do, if that's just driving around handing out a book every once in a while to young men and young women, boom, that's good. That's great. Don't think, well, they'll think I'm not doing enough. We talk ourselves out of just small gestures of help so much in our community. We always want to, if we're not doing a grand gesture, they think someone's going to judge them. That's BS. Just do little things that no one ever sees or knows of. That's, to me, the goal that we can do. And that's what I've always done.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make the gram. It doesn't have to be on TikTok. It can just be something where you take a second and you give back. And I've always felt like that book was written from your heart, not for profit, but really as a message to help
that's
people.
Completely from my heart. That book.
Yeah, that was 100%.
When it won the American Library Association Award, Best Book for Young Adults, I was so happy, because I knew then it would be in every library in the country. And that means that every young cat, no matter what their income level, would have the ability to get that book. And so when juvenile court judges started handing it out in their system, and I started getting all these letters from juvenile court judges, that kind of blew me away as well. I'm at a point now where it's been so many years, I'd like to actually, maybe for its 20th anniversary, which is still a little bit of a ways away. It came out in 2007. So that's maybe 20th anniversary, I'll find a young cat to do a new version with, an updated version. And, identify some of the young, or maybe I don't even have to wait till 2027, maybe do it sooner. But I've always thought about, updating the book, because things have changed since 2007. I mean, fundamentally, the lessons are the same, but there are other things that need to be discussed in the book that aren't discussed, like social media and all that stuff.
I think that's a great point. The thing I love about you, Hill, is that it feels like you're always thinking forward, and you're thinking about everyone else. And people may not always get that there's something going on in your brain that's thinking about, how can we, not me, but how can we take advantage of these moments? And I think it's something that I've noticed throughout your career. I've seen it throughout your career. It's what you do and who you are. So I just had to tell you for a second that how much you are appreciated, and how much you've done, and how important it is, man. Because I don't, people see you on TV and they think of TV, the guy on The Good Doctor. Yeah. But they need to understand that there is much more to the makeup and measure of this man than just a TV actor. I appreciate you. And by the way, I had to show my children the movie you did about the Black Irish kid. You're Black.
The nephew.
Yes, because my wife's family, her dad is Black from the Caribbean, her mother is white, and Irish. And so I showed it to my kids because I was like, listen, that's you. This is you, bro. This is you. It was a great little
Wow.
movie.
That movie, I'll tell you, that's, I named my son Pierce after Pierce Brosnan, and that's the movie that he and I became friends on.
Yeah.
He produced that film, and he was 007 at the time, and I just have so much respect for him. Just one of the coolest, smartest,
Yeah.
nicest guys. And I was like, if I ever have a son, I want to be like you, man. And I just want him to be chill, cool, smart, like relaxed, laid back, but also strong. And so I named Pierce after Pierce, and they've spent some good time together. And I love that film. I wish more people would have seen that film. It was really made more for Europe, and it really
Such a good movie.
didn't get the distribution here. But it's a beautiful film. I love making that film. That was one of the greatest shooting experiences, shooting that in Ireland. It was one of the greatest. I look back at my career, it's certainly the most memorable shooting experience that I've had, without question.
I think that now the way that our society and the world is changing, it's such an important movie too, to see, just to understand, like, we're all coming together. Listen, Hill, how can some of the folks who are watching, if they want to reach out to you, how can they get you?
Well, first of all, any of you out there could DM me on my Instagram, which is at Hill Harper, or my Twitter at Hill Harper. Same, I have a community number as well, that's right there on my Instagram, 918-262-4604. So you can text me on that. But I would ask folks, most importantly, please download the Black Wall Street Digital Wallet. I believe that this platform could be the most important thing that I do in my entire career, because I believe this platform can create more Black wealth than any business or platform in history. I believe it could be the world leader in Black recirculation of the digital dollar, as well as creation of jobs. Because when we recirculate the dollar and we actually put it into Black businesses grow and they hire more. One data point I'll say real quick is that 93% of the new hires of Black startup businesses are Black folk. But also the reverse is true. 93% of the new hires of white-owned businesses are white people. So therefore, it doesn't take a genius. If you want to create Black jobs, what do you have to do? Create Black businesses. And so we know we want more jobs in our community. We need to support Black businesses. We can do that on a digital platform like the Black Wall Street. So please, the way I get support, the way that I'll be able to get funding from the venture capital community and grow and scale it, is by having more downloads and more people active on the platform. So please download the Black Wall Street Digital Wallet, buy some Bitcoin. You'll thank me later that I had you buying Bitcoin now anyway, because the price is low right now. It's on sale. So go on and buy your Bitcoin on the Black Wall Street Digital Wallet, and let's get up to 1 million Satoshis, all of us. And please reach out if you have any questions or anything. If you want to engage some folks in your community, or if you want me to do something educating around cryptocurrency in the Black community, specifically Bitcoin, I'm happy to do a story with you all out there about that, because there are 9,200 different cryptos out there. 99% of them are ripoffs. And we don't want our communities thinking that all cryptos are the same and they end up getting into something where they lose everything. And so we want to make sound choices and lead with education first.
All right. So don't forget that the Black Wall Street, and I want to thank TEGNA, the TEGNA Foundation and Yahoo for this, and NABJ, because the Black Male Media Project is so important. We need these conversations. We need to talk with each other. We need to share information. Sharing information is the most important thing we can do. I cannot thank Hill Harper enough for being here today. I mean, look, I know how great this guy is, but I hope the world knows too. Again, the Black Wall Street. Go and download it. All right. I'm getting it today. I'm doing it right now.
Please, Kevin. And listen, man, you're a hero of mine, brother. You represent the best of us. You're out there dealing with these celebrities that are not easy to deal with, but you make it seem seamless all the time. So, brother, thank you for what you do and representing class. I remember when you were just doing sports.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna expand the repertoire. So Appreciate you, brother.
Hill, I appreciate you. This has been a great conversation. And y'all, last time I'm telling you, the Black Wall Street, I'm downloading it right now. I'm getting some Bitcoin on it.
This is what, I'll show it to y'all. I got my phone right here. This is what it looks,
show it.
You'll know what it looks like. You go, the app itself is this black one with the gold rising. Oh, it's hard to see. There's so much. And then you hit it. See, it says the Black Wall Street.
Got it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
See, Bitcoin, it's gone up. It's gone up this past little minutes. It's time to buy, y'all. Start buying now.
I'm getting in it. All right.
All right.
Yo, thanks, man. We appreciate you. All right.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. And hopefully next time I see you in person.
Yes, yes.